Good morning. It is now 10 o'clock, Tuesday, August 1st, 2023, and this is a City of Isle of Palms Public Safety Committee meeting. And I'd like to call the meeting to order, acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Next on the agenda is approval of previous meetings minutes, May 2nd. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second, any comments, anything, deletions or changes or whatever? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is citizens' comments.
Mr.
Nicole?
Klaus? Mr. Klaus is first.
Good morning, Al Klaus, 3 Grand Pavilion, meeting number 18 since 4/13 of 22, requesting for the 12th time to provide us written assurances regarding enforcement of Section 925B and C. What is the reason we're not getting written assurances? At the City Council meeting 7/25, we pointed out a number of missing facts Mrs. Anderson failed to disclose to the Ethics Commission regarding her conflicts of interest.
Point of order, Mr. Klaus, no personal attacks, please, sir.
Okay. We're waiting on a updated letter from the Ethics Commission regarding a member of this council. Today, agenda, looking forward to the noise abatement implementations which are suggested in the study. While we are on the topic, we had a noise disturbance at the Sweetgrass Friday night, called IOP Police, not using the 911 line, which we have been accused of many times. There was a group under the portico having a party. We could hear the music in our house, yes, TV on, doors and windows closed. Now, a number of you have been in our house. To explain, the explanation we received from the officer was the group provided their own amplifier and music. The officer stated he did not issue a ticket because it was not a resort event. The officer did tell the group to turn the music down. The officer also stated as he was leaving the hotel, another group was coming in with their amplifier. I believe he gave them a preemptive warning. Mrs. Hack, is there a new program you are offering? Instead of the socially accepted bring your own bottle, is the hotel now offering a bring your own amplifier? We would appreciate you performing due diligence on this issue. We do not believe you were aware of the walk-around amplified music. To the administration.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
point of order.
What's your point?
No personal attacks, please.
I'll allow him to continue. He only has another minute or so.
Okay.
I don't know how much time I have now. We believe the resort knows better. The resort could not help but hear what we were hearing. They were negligent in not stopping the amplified music from the non-resort event. Someone owned and provided and was responsible for the amplifier. Issue that person a ticket, just as our police issue tickets to the driver of the car, not necessarily the passengers in the car. The non-resort event disturbed our livability. Who is our? It's Williamson's, Ryman's, Lillian's, Krause's, Wyman's, Nab's. After 2.5 years, the resort has not learned their lesson. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Hack?
Is this citizens' comment, or will it be a
Yes.
presentation?
She'd asked for citizens' comment.
Okay, very good.
Actually, I might be confused. I have the report that we can discuss.
Oh, okay. I figured it was a citizens' comment that's what you wanted, since you
It's
asked.
fine.
It's
Okay.
fine, it's the
We're
next
just going
item on
straight
the
to old
agenda.
business. We'll go straight to old business. Presentation and discussion of noise study conducted by Wild Dune Sweetgrass Inn.
Yes, thank you, and good morning. My name is Terry Hack, and I represent the owners of Wild Dunes Resort. Thank you so much for your efforts regarding the important noise ordinance that's proposed before you. Imposing an island-wide ordinance without proper validation of the proposed restrictions is risky. However, the current noise ordinance is very subjective and very difficult to enforce. This is only one sound engineering company and its studies. I would encourage the city to continue to seek your own consultant and studies. As committed, the sound study was delivered on Friday for your review. The report is complicated and scientific in nature. The monitoring took place on 3 time periods: low season, February 22nd through 26th, and we recorded 101 hours and 101 and a half hours. Early summer, June 11th through 14th, 62.5 hours of a group event, yet we had thunderstorms, thus requiring an additional very expensive study. And then one more study, summer, with one group and a small wedding, and that was 20 hours. All of those monitoring hours are available. One of the council members had asked if they could see all of the data. If someone wanted to sit and listen to all of that recording, I'm happy to make that available through our sound engineer. The draft ordinance states that a violation occurs when sound readings exceed the limit continuously for a period of 30 seconds, or when the sound reading exceeds the limit for less than 30 seconds, but occurs more than 6 times within 2 minutes. This will take a trained person to validate the results when called to take a reading. Are we prepared to ensure that these complicated readings will be accurate? Is there another way? The red dashes on the report that I provided for you represent the highest sound level within an hour. These sound events are very short in duration and are attributable to a sundry of sources within and without the property, and do not represent a violation of a noise ordinance as proposed. They give us a representation of the range of variation of the sound for all surroundings throughout the hour. In viewing the results of our study, it's important that the proposed noise ordinance level of 75 decibels for commercial properties, including Islander 71, remain at 75 decibels or a bit higher for amplified music. This will allow commercial properties to operate within the guidelines for the surrounding neighborhoods to be protected. This will also reduce the need to ask council for a variation for most group activities at Sweetgrass Inn and pool area. We do want to be a good neighbor, and we represent and we respect the families who live around Sweetgrass Inn. We have taken many steps to mitigate noise from the resort pool and the 6th floor. I would encourage you to reach out to the owners of businesses on Front Beach regarding the proposed 85 decibel restriction. It's my understanding that 85 decibel may be too restrictive for some businesses on Front Beach. Adherence to this important noise ordinance and all of the proposed decibel restrictions throughout IOP must be enforced equally throughout the city. I'm very happy to answer any questions about the report as I've submitted.
Jan, do you have any questions?
I guess what I'm wondering about is, I'm looking at, let's just look at the July table. Is that the one? Yeah, that one has absolutely nothing on it. The blue line that you show, and for those looking on, watching this, it's the one that has the cicadas arrow mark to it. That is the noise level for, explain it to me, I guess, is what I'm asking you to do.
Yes, ma'am. That is the constant noise level that's occurring. And again, we were monitoring at the far end of our property fence line.
So that's more than background noise, though?
That's all noise.
Everything, okay.
It's very difficult to separate the noise source in the recording equipment that was being used. And so it is not just recorded or amplified music. And I think that that's what the difficulty is here. As we understand the current noise ordinance, it's no amplification of any kind anywhere, which in today's world is just not, you can't have no noise.
Correct.
And I
Yeah.
do think that there are many consumers, many guests that are now carrying their own like Bluetooth to project their music. And that is becoming a larger problem, not only for a resort component or a commercial. I saw it happen at Islander 71 over the weekend. Someone took a table, brought their own music. So it is something that we as a society have to consider how we manage that kind of personal, portable amplification.
Do you have a resort policy on use of personal amplifiers like
We
that?
don't, Mrs. Anderson, but we will, because we've seen it. This was really the first year that we've seen it, and it is. We do, of course, if somebody's being any kind of behavior that's being disruptive to others, as we see it, others would be the surrounding guests. We would ask them to stop. So
Okay.
it is something that we will do just as a matter of course, so that you couldn't disrupt someone that's sitting right next to you at the pool or right next to you in a restaurant.
So the blue line would definitely be the baseline, the line that we'd be most interested in to make sure that that is below whatever the noise level is.
That is correct. So 70, the dashed black line is the ordinance.
Yeah, the ordinance
The
level.
proposed ordinance. And again, we only did a sampling of what we could get, who was in the resort at that point. But I think the most important thing is that our standard behavior is not, it's not outrageous. We, in a normal course of the day, with guests at the pool, a wedding of 100 people, a small group, it's not crazy. Although I do recognize fully that there have been times that we've exceeded a noise from a group that got out of hand.
Okay.
We have some mitigation. We have a piece of equipment that we've identified, actually the sound engineer identified, that we could place at the end of wherever the function is, and a red light would come on if they're exceeding the proposed noise ordinance, and that would indicate to the meeting planner, the band leader, the sound guy, that they've exceeded and they have to turn down. It's an expensive piece of equipment, but it would be much better than our security running up every single time or running out to a function.
Okay, and what do you do if let's say the event planner doesn't comply?
We close it down. And we have several times closed down group events when they wouldn't take their music down. So
Okay.
we're very serious about this. We respect the neighbors, and we respect the rest of our guests.
Let me get back to this table.
Sorry.
So we've got the black dashed line, which is the standard for our ordinance. We've got the blue line, which is pretty much the continuous noise level at the time that you were doing the study.
Yes.
Okay, then you have the red dashes, which I'm going to focus on the one that's in the yellow area, which is an evening event,
Yes.
evening function.
Right.
I don't know whether you remember what kind of function it was.
Yes, that was a wedding, and that was most likely the base of the band and the band was inside, and then somebody opens the doors, holds the door open for others coming in and out, that's most likely that line.
Okay, and was that event downstairs or was it upstairs?
Upstairs.
Okay, so that would
Upstairs.
be the one that probably the one you notice the noise the most.
Correct.
Okay. And so what you show is just, you've got maybe 3 lines, and are those lines like is there a time on those lines? Is it
The-
It's right at the
minute, 2
bottom.
minutes, 3 minutes?
See, it's 1500, that's 3 o'clock.
Right.
Is the first one, and 1800, 6 o'clock, 2100 is 9 PM,
At the very bottom of the grid.
right there. That's the time.
That's the time. No, I meant how duration of those
Um,
red bars.
You can see it down in the comments that they're less, they're just a snippet.
Mhm.
Um,
So equivalent to what you're talking about, just a door opening.
Right, and
Okay.
so then sounds goes out the door, it's recorded. I thought that it was really important to leave the red dashes
Yes.
on this report because it
Absolutely.
does say that at times in small increments, yes, you can hear noise coming from either the 6th floor or the pool area.
Okay. Which you would have at any building that held
Yes.
events. That you could secure the building, but unless you had some sort of a
Unless you locked them in.
airlock or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's very interesting.
It's really scientific and it's hard to disseminate exactly.
Mhm.
I don't have any problem at all with it. It's very clear to me.
Okay.
But from what you're representing here, that you would be well under the proposed ordinance of 75, except for bursts that last 1 or 2 seconds.
That's correct. And I would say, Mr. Ward, maybe not well under, but we would be under 75 decibels.
You could live with that.
We could live with that. It's not going to be without its great discipline to the operators to make sure that they adhere to that. I think the most difficult thing is going from no noise, no amplified music, to some level that is respected into the community. And I think that that's where we are right now, because we're at 0 amplified
Okay.
music.
Desiree, council meeting this month, is that a 22nd?
We have a workshop next Tuesday on the 8th.
Right.
And the regular council meeting will be on the 22nd.
Ms. Hack, would you be available to come back either the 8th or 22nd for either one of those?
I am scheduled on the 22nd.
Okay.
I've been here for some time from last city council to today, so
Okay.
I'm not sure about next week if I.
Okay, either one.
Yeah,
Either one.
22nd.
I just think everyone needs to hear this.
I'm happy to do that. I'm also happy to answer any other questions that you think might be helpful to the entire council.
Well, I've read through it at length and a couple of times, and it's pretty clear to me what you're proposing. I'm just trying to look out for the neighbors.
Yes, sir. I understand
I
that.
understand you have a business to run, but I'm concerned with the surrounding peace and quiet that the neighbors, I think, deserve.
Of course, of course.
Anything else? Yes.
Yes. So I would imagine that there could be events that could exceed this level of noise with the noise ordinance. And with those, you would have to submit a permit application with city council.
That is
And
correct.
city council would determine whether the exception could be made.
I thought you made some mention in your presentation to where the levels would be so low that you wouldn't have to worry about that permit.
I think that there's still going to be some. I would I would suggest that perhaps the J&J event, if we rebooked it and allowed them to be on the pool deck, which most likely we would not, that would need to have a variance.
Yeah.
Although, quite frankly, they'll probably go to another city. So
Really? Oh.
that, it's just the natural, they want more freedom than we're going to be able to give them, and we understand that.
Okay.
And just as a reminder, the final draft of the ordinance that we're working on, that had some feedback from the the last council meeting where this was discussed, we were asked to eliminate the special permit process by which a business or commercial entity could come back and request for up to a certain hours every year to be exempted from the maximum decibel for special events. So the process that we would have to follow is the city-sponsored, the city-sanctioned event, which is very similar, but there is no process right now spelled out in the ordinance that would allow special permits to be issued as it relates to the noise ordinance, but there is a different avenue available as a city-sponsored event, which is what we've used in the past when there are events that will need some flexibility from not only the noise ordinance, but other city sections of the city code. But I just wanted to remind you all that the several months that we've been working on the ordinance, that section was requested to be removed.
All right.
Go ahead.
I misunderstood then, because I understood that what we had discussed in committee was that we would no longer have just 5 permits allowed. We would just say that this is the ordinance, and anything that you wanted to do that was outside of the audience, you would have to apply for a permit.
Correct.
Actually, that was my understanding as well.
Correct. It's just a different process.
So it would
It's
be a
not-
permit through a different,
It would have to be a city-sponsored event or a city-sanctioned event. But
City-sanctioned,
the noise
okay.
ordinance does not have we had included a very detailed process for
Yes.
people to submit a special permit. That was removed.
Okay.
These requests would be addressed via a city-sponsored event
well,
request.
I don't think we want to sponsor every loud event at the Sweetgrass, at the resort. So if it's sanctioned, that just means that we've allowed for that exception.
That's right.
Okay, that's fine.
I think that's why it's very important that the 75 not be reduced, because if that is the case, we would be here every single month asking for sanctions for a variety of weddings and events, and
Yeah.
so,
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
yes, and thank you for your patience in waiting for the reports. I appreciate it. And I will be here on the 22nd of August, correct?
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you. Under old business, items B and C, I'm recommending that we postpone discussion until we have more time to review the proposals that are coming in.
Yes, we did open proposals. We received 6 in total that we are still reviewing. It has taken us more time than we originally anticipated to go through all of those proposals, but we are working through them. Our goal would be to complete that in the next few weeks and be able to come before you all and decide which companies we want to bring back during a special meeting for presentation, so we can ask them questions. But really glad that we had a great response from parking management vendors, and I think that that we'll be in a good position to negotiate a contract with one of them for them to take over outsourcing parking for the city.
Very good. Thank you. Under new business, item A is approval of vehicle replacements and purchases for the police department. One Ford SUV police vehicle, $48,626, state contract, fiscal year budget '24, capital projects fund, police department, $52,000. Motion to approve.
So move.
Any discussion?
So, two of the vehicles that are being replaced are from 2016. One has 158,600 miles. The other one that's being replaced is a 2016 Ford SUV with 140,400 miles. The code enforcement enforcement vehicle is a new vehicle. Remember, we added a second code enforcement officer position, so we're adding a vehicle to the fleet to accommodate that role. And then the Dodge 1500 for the animal control officer, that is that's replacing a 2018 Chevy Silverado that has extensive rust and frame issues. All four are budgeted, included in the FY24 capital projects.
At this time, I'd like to withdraw my motion. Would you consider withdrawing your second? And I'll tell you why.
Yes, I would.
I would like to go ahead and consider all four requests at one time. I think Desiree has explained it
Okay.
well. So my motion is to approve all four.
Second.
Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Desiree. Moving to B, approval of replacement of 6 mobile data terminals for fire department, $36,000 fiscal year budget, 24 general fund fire department, IT equipment, software and services, $36,000. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
This is a replacement that we have scheduled in our capital plan. This is the device that is installed in our vehicles, and our folks receive the information about the call that they're responding to via consolidated dispatch. So this is a replacement. They've reached their end of their useful life, and we've included in the budget to replace them this year.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of overhead fans for apparatus bay at Fire Station 1, the amount of $65,025, fiscal year 24 budget, capital projects fund, fire department, building maintenance, $124,620. And you've got something in your packet about, it's a big fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a.
That's not what it says here.
It's an
but-
interesting name of the company. I will let Chief Hathaway sort of explain the process with this equipment. We were planning on doing that this upcoming year, using our maintenance contingency fund to purchase these fans for Fire Station 2. I'm sorry, Fire Station 1, which is our public safety building for the Bay.
That's right.
Had any details?
They do go by the initials BAF, just so you can keep it
It's a family channel here.
able to discuss. Yes, G-rated.
It is a corporate, it is a pronoun, I mean, it is a proper noun.
Yeah.
But anyways, they are very large industrial fans. They are, this particular fan, which is sole source, by the way, is built for the environment in which we have here, which can be very harsh on equipment. There is the rust resistance and waterproofing and everything else. These were also engineered so that with the installation of it, it would not interfere with the other processes such as exhaust removal and those kind of things. So our personnel spend a lot of time in the bay when they come back from calls, cleaning up, doing training in the bay and these kind of things. There's not a lot of airflow in our bay with the back wall being as tight as it is. So this allows for that airflow to keep them cooled down, much like having the heaters in the winter. And also with the water missions that we have, they come back multiple times, especially on weekends. They're wet, their gear is wet, which you can imagine going into a fire like that is actually kind of dangerous. So this again allows for that equipment to dry faster, helping them in that sense. We're also hoping that the air moving will keep some of the birds in the bay away as well, which we'll see.
It says it's plural fans. How many fans?
That Station 1 would have 2 fans. There is also, not to get ahead of ourselves, but we've already gotten quotes too for the next budget year to do the same at Station 2, which would just be 1 fan. But yeah, for Station 2, the base size that it is would require 2 fans.
Are these similar to the fan that's in the Windjammer?
I have not been to the Windjammer to see what fan they have, but these are,
They
when
put
you
it
go
in
into like a
several years
large box
ago.
store, and you see the really big fans like at a Home Depot or a Lowe's or something, it's like that. They push a lot of air.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Jan, do you have any questions or
No.
comments? Okay. Motion to approve?
So move.
Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yes. Hey, and I just want to say thank you guys. It's been a crazy couple of years, and your guys' support for our department, the police department, has been phenomenal. So I just want to say thank you for the
Thank
continued.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Item D, discussion and approval of design of new emergency vehicle beach access at IOP County Park.
So you all recall, we've been talking about this for a while now, this idea and vision that we have for expanding the emergency vehicle access to the Front Beach area. As you all know, we currently have several emergency beach access paths that our vehicles use. But the one at Front Beach is typically can get pretty unstable. And with the growth of the dune, creates a drop-off that sometimes it's just not safe for our vehicles to use. So in looking at alternatives, last year with our new chief and our staff, we identified an opportunity to enhance the existing access path at 14th, adjacent to within the county park, adjacent to the city's beach access path at 14th Avenue, to allow for a intentional and consistent access path will be properly constructed and maintained to allow our folks to respond to calls on the beach, both PD and fire. So to that end, we engaged Davis and Floyd last year to develop a design. Staff has met several times with Davis and Floyd, the design team, and the county park staff. And in your packets, we've included the latest design of what that project would be. We have included in the budget for FY24 $200,000 for the construction of this design once approved. So I'll just describe really briefly what the design includes. It has a new gate at the curve at 14th and Ocean, a new 12-foot wide path of reinforced landscaping to blend in with the park, but provide a firm driving surface where the vehicles are going to be accessing the path. There's also a new resting area with power hookup for an emergency vehicle to remain parked within the park and not need to be idling. A new widened gate at the beach end of the path. So after you go over the Clatter Bridge, which we're also proposing having a new one over the dune, would have a widened gate at the end of the path. As I indicated, staff has met a couple of times with Davis and Floyd and the county park. The county park folks have provided some comments to this version of the design. So there'll be potentially small changes to the final design that you have in your packet based on their feedback. Just some landscaping issues or access issues that we need to address. But overall, everybody is in agreement with the concept, and once we nail down some of these details in the design, we'll be able to go out for bid for the construction. But it's been a good project, a very collaborative endeavor with the county, and again, they've been generally pretty open and receptive to this proposal that not only benefits the city, obviously our visitors and our residents that are on the beach, but also county residents who utilize the park to access the beach.
When are you projecting to start, and what is your projected completion date?
Our goal is for all approvals, the PRT board has to approve the design just as council will once it's finalized. Our goal would be to go out for bid to get a construction contractor in November, and then have a notice to proceed in January, so this project is completed before the beginning of the next beach season.
Will this, one more question. Will this do away with the need for the 9th Avenue beach access?
I think we always want to maintain and give ourselves the flexibility in the event that we do need to access that area, and the folks that are responding to a call believe that that is the best alternative that they have available. We'll still want to maintain it, but I think we'll use it less once we have this new one in place.
I think the people that live there would really like to hear this news, yeah. Because I've received several concerns over the years.
Yes,
People,
and
especially people in the 800 block.
yeah,
Okay.
we understand, and, you know, sometimes because of the steep incline, we've had to grade it to allow for the vehicles to go, and I think that gives some anxiety to some of the residents
Yeah,
in that
they
area.
worry about,
Flooding.
northeasters come in and storm surge and washing on to the straight in their yards.
That's right.
Go ahead, Jen. Yeah, questions?
Okay, well, I certainly support having an alternative access, just because if something happens to one, you do have an option. I had some questions about the design. First of all, it says city to coordinate with OCRM. Does that mean, do we need any kind of permitting or anything from them, or are we operating under an existing permit with this?
We will need permits if the construction goes past the critical line. We don't anticipate that being the case, but if it does, then that will be something that we'll have to get through OCRM approval.
Okay. The second thing I see on this is there appears to be a pedestrian sidewalk that will go through even the gate that's on the beach side of the path. Is that correct?
That's correct. There is a path that continues all the way to the
Right.
to the toe of the dune.
Okay. And will it be, I guess the gate won't close off that?
No,
Okay, so that it'll always be open, and it won't be a problem with vehicles trying to sneak through that way? That's not an issue now?
I don't believe so.
No.
No, I would say too, because of the curve the way it is, you would have to use tremendous caution going in anyways. So, operating in due regard for the public and pedestrians is always paramount to us.
Yeah.
Their safety is big, so we do understand that would be
Okay.
a cautious entrance.
But the other new path is solely for emergency vehicles, is what you're telling me?
That is correct.
right?
There is
Yeah.
there is a sidewalk that will be constructed to continue allowing pedestrian path and for the people to be able to connect to the park next to it.
Yeah.
But that is in existence today. I believe.
And then the emergency path seems to join with the sidewalk closer to the beach.
Correct.
But by that time, everyone should be aware that there's an emergency vehicle nearby.
Yeah, there'll be
Yeah.
sirens alerting
Sirens, yeah.
folks.
Okay. And what kind of vehicles do you use for beach access?
So for us, there's multiple, the mules, which is a little ATV, pickup trucks. But this would be able to host an ambulance as well, which is
Oh,
one of the really
okay.
big points to it. Charleston County does not have stations for their ambulances anymore. They stage them throughout where they're needed. They try to forecast by time of day, time of year, those kind of things. The power hookup is really for their convenience, and while it would not guarantee that an ambulance would be posted on the island, it is more inviting for them.
Good
It's a
idea.
space where they could go and plug in and not have to be running the fuel. It provides them with the resources that are there, a restroom and those kind of things. Also, one of the biggest issues we have is, the county park being one of the busiest areas on Front Beach during the season. Trying to get in and out of the horseshoe is almost impossible and quite dangerous if you want to know the truth. And so this path allows us to Ms. Desiree's point, another capability of getting on and off the beach, not having to use other means. But it also allows us a safe place, and it allows for us to keep some dignity to a patient because they're away from the crowd and they're meeting an ambulance closer to the beach. They can get care faster, and they just have a better way in and out of the county park area.
Would the ambulance that's stationed, let's say, the attractive location for the ambulance, so there's an ambulance station there, would it be available for calls elsewhere on the island as well, or is it specifically for?
We have that now, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't want to make any kind of claim that there's going to be an ambulance station. I'm just saying
Right.
that there's a place where it's
could
more it's more attractive for them to stage if they wanted to be in this area. But yes, there is no ambulance that's tied to any specific one region. So an ambulance can pick up a patient on Isle of Palms, end up at Med U, to drop them off, and then the next thing you know, their next call is in Kiowa. So they're not tied to a specific district.
Yeah, and when we do have instances during the summer, during busy weekends, when we do partner with the county to ensure that there is an ambulance stage on the island, that ambulance, as Chief Hathaway indicated, responds to EMS calls island-wide or even
Okay,
out of the,
good.
out of the island.
And it would typically be stationed in a place like this, I guess.
It could be. yes.
It could be, yes.
Thank you. Looks like a
Many
great
times you
project.
see at 21st Avenue, there's an ambulance there, a lot on the weekend. So, this item's calls for approval of the design. I'd like to make the motion to approve this design.
Second,
Any further discussion?
The only thing I would say is, while it's in an almost final stage, there might be some small adjustments and changes to the design. Obviously, we will present the final design before we go out for bidding to council. But I
Yeah.
think conceptually, we could get a buy-in and approval from council from where we are, and hopefully that helps speed the process. And if there are any dramatic changes, anything substantial, we'll certainly address that and highlight those to you all before we go out for bidding.
Understood. All in favor?
aye.
Motion passes. Before we leave this topic, something that's, I've asked about before. Several years ago, council took a tour of the command center way up in North Charleston off, I forget the name of the road.
Palmetto Commerce.
Palmetto Commerce.
Right. It was very informative and interesting trip. And I'd like to request that we look at that, that the full council look at that, because you're going to, I learned so much. And they taught us, it was a one-day trip, we had lunch there and everything. They taught us about the logistics, about where they post assets based on the past history, and they could pretty much predict where they were going to need something based on past events. Fascinating. I think it would be very informative for council if we could schedule one of those again.
I'll reach out to them and see if
Okay,
that's
I've
something that they
asked
would be.
about that before. I would appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. Going on to item E, discussion regarding implementing safety measures on 29th Avenue and Waterway Boulevard intersection. This came about from a request from a resident that has two small children, and she's worried about the traffic, and she did some detailed observation about what's going on Waterway and how fast the cars are going, how many cars were going past there. And I'd just like to get some input from Jan and also from you, Desiree, and also from Mr. Swain. If there's anything that we can do to address this issue.
So we received the comments from the resident on that street and recognize that it is a highly utilized avenue. It's one of the ones that border the recreation center, and I think her concern stems from the fact that because the recreation center is there, there's a lot of pedestrian and particularly a lot of children traversing that area. One of the things that we've discussed internally is posting one of our speed radar, mobile speed radars that we purchased this year to that location for several weeks so that we can gather more consistent data. I sincerely appreciate the observations that the resident provided to us. Those will be very helpful, but something that we can have over a continuous period of time that can help us, one, understand the issue, and two, for it to serve as a justification for any future changes, whether that be a four-way stop sign or a crosswalk. I would also like to remind you, everyone, that one of the projects that the city is partnering with the CBB this upcoming fiscal year with the Charleston Visitors Bureau using the 30% fund for tourism promotion is to pursue a walkability study, island-wide walkability study, to have a sort of master plan that we could follow for the next few, the next 5-10 years, to install additional sidewalks, to identify locations where crosswalks are necessary, with the ultimate goal of making the city as walkable as possible, and include and install pedestrian infrastructure. So I think this is a perfect example of an issue that should be addressed as part of an overall walkability study that we can, have an implementation plan for, that we can follow. So my recommendation would be that we put a speed radar in that location for a few weeks, gather data, go back to SCDOT and see, according to their standards, what traffic calming measures we can consider and implement and request their approval for. And then ultimately include that specific location and make sure that that walkability study looks at that particular issue, and it's included in recommendations for better walkability infrastructure there.
Do you think you'll have time to respond to this individual?
Absolutely.
I know you've got so much on your plate, but I think she'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Captain Swain, do you have anything that you might add?
I know that Waterway is probably, aside from Palm Boulevard, would make it probably the most second enforced roadway that we have here on the island. And it's a place that we do a lot of enforcement on, not saying that we can't do more. And we always appreciate any time someone brings any traffic issue to us like this, a complaint like this, to where we can, get specific. And, Desiree and I've already spoken about this, and those portable radars that we have, I can put one right there at that intersection, and it even records data, and so we can take a good look at what's going on there.
That'd be great. Comments?
Yeah, I have a couple, but the first one, following up on the radar sign, that only registers speeds in one direction?
I believe it does both directions.
Can you get both directions from one sign? Okay, good. That would be helpful. The second thing is, Desiree, you talked about a walkability study. I would hope that it would include pedestrian, bike, golf cart, all kind, not just walking, but I like to call it multimodal, everything. We look at everything really, but the automobile traffic and how everything else interfaces with the automobile traffic.
Yeah, and on that, even though this is a project that's included in the Explore Charleston's FY24 budget for the use of our 30%, it is something that the city will pursue, and they will reimburse the city. So we'll be in control in the selection of the contractor, the scope, the selection of the contractor and the firm that's going to be conducting the study. So I think, to your point, we'll be able to include and make sure that it's a broad scope to not just walkable and pedestrian access and infrastructure, but multimodal as well.
Okay, and is this different from the study that South Carolina DOT is doing on Palm Boulevard between 21st and 41st?
Yes, ma'am. This walkability study would be island-wide, would definitely be, would have to connect with the concepts that DOT is drafting for that section of Palm Boulevard for our review, which includes golf cart, pedestrian, and bike infrastructure as well.
Okay. Just so this isn't so piecemeal, when do we expect to get, what's the status of the DOT study on Palm Boulevard, I guess is what I want to ask.
I don't have an update on where we are. We had a meeting with them last month, and they're still working through a couple of options, but we have not received any concepts just yet. We anticipate that being in the fall.
Okay, I think you're going to have some opinions from the community on what they'd like to see as well, so let's hope they are still open to suggestions when they arrive. The second thing is, so when would you anticipate this walkability study that City of Isle of Palms is going to do? When could that start?
I don't know. We just started this fiscal year. We have a lot of projects on the pipeline. This is going to be another one that we'll have to work on drafting a request for proposals, issuing that, getting proposals back, reviewing them. So I would say within the next 60 to 90 days that we can, between now and within 90 days, be able to select a contractor to pursue that work. I don't know how long will they need to be able to do the study and provide a deliverable to the city.
I would hope that we could get a consultant on board for our study before DOT has finished theirs, so that there could be some interaction between the two studies, so that we don't just live with what DOT does and then have to work around their recommendations. So that if we could even just get our study started, then we would have a consultant on board who could interface with DOT and possibly provide good input. So if we could, 60 to 90 days sounds fine. DOT doesn't work very fast, so we'll probably be able to, if we could get someone on. If you need help writing the RFP, we certainly have a consultant, on-call services consultant that could help with that.
Yeah. Well, and the walkability study will have to work with DOT because most of our streets are state-owned. So any changes will require encroachment permits and approval from DOT. So I think that coordination it will need to happen, but I agree with you that it needs to be coordinated with whatever concepts DOT is developing for essentially the main artery of the island.
Word to the wise, they will be focusing on what's best for Palm Boulevard, which is good. But they won't look at how it integrates with all of the rest of the island, which is what our study will do. So if we can have some sort of coordination, even if it's just at the beginning, one will be aware of what the other is doing and be able to incorporate the big picture. It's not going to make a big difference, but it could make some small differences. So that's just my recommendation for that.
Okay, very good. The next meeting is scheduled for 10 a.m. Tuesday, September 5th.
Okay, I have one comment I'd like to make.
Go ahead.
Okay. I would just like to say, if anyone has an ethics concern by anyone on city council, they are free to submit an application to the South Carolina Ethics Commission for an opinion that they can receive and present. I have submitted a question to the Ethics Commission and received a response from the commission that I have posted, and anyone else can do the same, but I will not be submitting another question at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second. All in favor?